Hello viewers, welcome to the facts of the CCP's tyrannical persecution of Christians. I'm Link. In September 2020, to completely eliminate the Church of Almighty God, the CCP launched a 3-year total war. Immediately, crackdown and arrest campaigns targeting Christians from the Church of Almighty God started to intensify in every province across the country. On November 10th alone, in the city of Zibo, Shandung province, at least 120 Christians were detained in a coordinated mass arrest. The police interrogated them under torture, resorting to all kinds of despicable methods and stopping at nothing. The Christians were subjected to forced ideological conversion and pressured to sign the 3 statements to abandon their faith. Many Christians who refused to sign the 3 statements endured all kinds of tortures, like sleep deprivation, punishment standing, and food deprivation. But they never yielded and were sentenced to prison. Recently, we interviewed Liju Ćing, a Christian who was recently released after serving her sentence. She was only 24 years old at the time of her arrest. Brutally tortured for refusing to sign the 3 statements, she remained unyielding, even if it cost her life. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison by the CCP. During her imprisonment, she suffered ruthless brutalisation and inhuman abuse at the hands of the CCP. Every day felt like a year as she endured constant agony. These 5 years of brutal persecution left an indelible scar on her heart. Now, through Liju Ćing's account, we'll learn the true facts of the brutal persecution she suffered at the hands of the CCP for believing in God.
It was around 6 a.m. on November 10th, 2020. 2 other sisters and I had just got up when we suddenly heard a violent banging on the door. Then our bedroom door was forcibly kicked open. They even broke the door. A crowd of police officers burst in. They pinned the 3 of us to the floor and ordered us not to move. The scene of the arrest was chaotic. The living room was filled with police officers, about a dozen of them. Then the police began to ransack the house without restraint. They confiscated our 4 computers, over 40,000 yuan in cash and other items. After the police escorted us downstairs, I saw dozens more officers and several police cars lining both sides of the road. And there was also a police bus. The police had also blockaded all the intersections. They deployed such immense police resources just to arrest us 3 unarmed Christians. They really put on a massive show of force. One of the officers said that they had been lying in wait downstairs all night in order to catch more believers. Later, the police put hoods over our heads, forced us into a vehicle, and took us to the local public security bureau. I remember the police started interrogating us that afternoon. A group of male officers surrounded me, and one of them, sitting across from me, asked deliberately, "What do you believe in?" I said, "Almighty God." He then said fiercely, "If you sign the 3 statements right now, we'll let you go immediately. But if you keep believing in Almighty God, you're going to jail. We'll sentence you to 10 years. So tell me, are you going to keep believing or not?" I said, "I will keep believing." He slapped me hard across the face. I was stunned by the blow, and my face burned with pain. I had never been hit by anyone in my entire life, and I felt utterly humiliated. Immediately after, the officer grabbed a handful of my hair and yanked my head back hard, forcing me to look at him. He said fiercely, "You still believe? We'll see about that." Just then, a heavy-set officer gestured to the one pulling my hair, and he finally let go. I asked them, I haven't committed any crime. Why did you arrest and hit me? The heavy-set officer sneered, then said, "Your belief in God goes against Communist Party policy, so we had to arrest you. A beating is already going easy on you."
After that, the police escorted Liju Ćing to an administrative detention facility in Zibo. They subjected her to 20 days of brainwashing and forced her to watch videos that slandered and defamed the Church of Almighty God, as well as videos that glorified the CCP. Afterward, they forced her to write thought reports and pressured her to sign the 3 statements. Liju Ćing felt immense pain and oppression, but she resolutely refused to sign the 3 statements and refuted the fallacies and the lies in the brainwashing videos. On December 1st, 2020, the police transferred her and the other Christians to a large local hotel. She saw that slightly over 120 Christians were being held there. Only then did she realise that this was a coordinated mass arrest operation targeting the Church of Almighty God, launched by the Zibo police.
At the hotel, the police separated us. 2 Christians were held in each room, and 6 female officers guarded the room I was in, working in 3 rotating shifts. They spent over another month forcing us to watch videos that smeared and slandered the Church of Almighty God, atheistic propaganda from the CCP, and videos glorifying and whitewashing the Communist Party. They did this to forcibly convert our thinking and pressure us to sign the 3 statements, to abandon our faith. During the brainwashing sessions, the police restricted our bathroom use and only gave us a few sips of water a day. This left me constantly constipated. A week later, when the police saw that we were still holding fast to our faith and wouldn't sign the 3 statements, they punished us by forcing us to stand all day without being allowed to sleep. This went on for 3 days on end. My feet and lower legs swelled up so much that they lost sensation, and I had to hold onto the wall just to walk to the bathroom. The sleep deprivation left me disoriented. I could barely keep my eyes open, and I kept stumbling. Several times I nearly fell over. After that, when the police forced me to write thought reports again, I used them to expose how the CCP tramples on human rights. I wrote that we Christians had not broken any laws or committed any crime, yet we had been arrested and detained by the police, that we were often forced to stand day and night as a punishment, and that we were deprived of even basic needs like drinking water and sleep. To my surprise, after the Criminal Investigation Brigade captain read my thought report, not only did he not punish me, but he called a female officer out of the room. I vaguely heard them say something about using a kind persuasion approach on me. A short while later, the female officer came back and let me sit down and rest for a bit. That night, I was also allowed to sleep for a few hours. But the police weren't about to give up so easily. Later, they interrogated me for 3 consecutive days and nights without letting me sleep, repeatedly demanding to know, who preached the gospel to you? Why do you believe in God? What church activities have you participated in? Have you ever offered money? They also told me to identify my brothers and sisters, but I refused to answer. During this time, they brought in several different groups of officers. They took turns pressuring me to sign the 3 statements, but I still didn't sign them. At this, 2 female officers flew into a rage. They cursed me viciously, then forced me to stand again as a punishment and denied me food.
After more than a month, because Liju Ćing held fast to her faith and resolutely refused to sign the 3 statements, the police took her to Zibo City Detention Centre. In April 2022, Liju Ćing was sentenced to 5 years in prison by the local court for organising and using a Xie Jiao organisation to undermine law enforcement. In early January 2024, she was sent to a women's prison in Shandong province. After entering the prison, she was assigned by the prison guards to cell block 9. This cell block is a special cell block set up by the CCP to forcibly brainwash Christians and pressure them into abandoning their faith. It's called the Special Management Cell Block. The prison guards use the promise of a reduced sentence for converting Christians as bait to incite other inmates to forcibly brainwash the Christians. These inmates are all cell bosses and bullies, and to get the maximum sentence reduction, they all vie with each other to torment Christians, trying every possible means to force them to admit that believing in God is a crime and to sign the 3 statements to abandon their faith.
我们监视的牢头是
The bosses in my cell were Qin Jinying, Nian Na, and Wu Yun. When they found out I came from a single-parent family, they decided to use a kind persuasion approach on me. The cell boss, Wu Yun, said I was the same age as her daughter, and for 3 straight days, she was constantly asking if I was warm enough or had eaten enough, trying to get close to me. She tried to brainwash me through intimate conversation, saying that as long as I admitted my guilt, life in prison would be much easier for me. She used this to tempt me to sign the 3 statements and betray God.
他们爱心感化我期间，
While they were using this kind persuasion approach on me, I was allowed to eat and rest normally like the other inmates. But on the evening of the 3rd day, when cell boss Qin Jinyang saw that I still wouldn't admit guilt or sign the 3 statements, her vicious true colors were fully revealed. She threatened me, saying, "We've given you 3 days to adjust. If you still refuse to admit that believing in God is a crime and don't sign the 3 statements, then you'd better get ready to suffer." For nearly half a year after that, the cell bosses subjected me to 3 rounds of physical punishment, beatings, and torture, which made me wish I were dead. The first round of torture began on the 4th day after I entered the cell. The cell bosses would force me to get up and stand as punishment from 3 or 4 in the morning every day. And during the day, they would force me to read all kinds of books that blaspheme God and slander the Church of Almighty God. They believed that as a university graduate, I shouldn't hold fast to my faith. So in addition to forcing me to read various books filled with baseless rumors, they also gave me books on history, science, and so on. They even printed out laws and regulations for me to read, and arranged for one person to constantly spout fallacies to me. They thought that this would make me accept their views and abandon my faith. But they didn't expect that I would still hold fast to my faith and refuse to sign the 3 statements. So they punished me by making me hold a military-style squat all day long. A military-style squat is when you step back half a pace with your right foot and squat down with your buttocks resting on your right heel. Your knees can't touch the ground, and you have to keep both hands on your knees and your upper body perfectly straight and still. This kind of physical punishment is very hard to bear. After just a few minutes, most people's legs ache and tremble. I had injured my right ankle previously, so I couldn't endure the military-style squat at all. After just a few minutes, the pain made me break out in a sweat.
有时我撑不住了，
And sometimes, when I couldn't hold on any longer, I couldn't help but kneel on one knee.
只要发现我动了，
Whenever the cell bosses saw me move, they would kick me all over and curse at me relentlessly. They didn't treat me like a human being at all.
我身上被他们踢得
My body was black and blue from their kicks,
特别的疼。
and it hurt terribly. During that time, I was in so much pain that I wanted to find a chance to throw myself down the stairs, thinking that if I broke my leg, I wouldn't have to do the military-style squat every day. But when I thought about how Satan would mock me if I harmed myself, I gritted my teeth and persisted. After the daily brainwashing sessions, they would continue to punish me by making me stand until after 10 p.m. They also cut my food rations, giving me only a small amount each day and a pitifully small amount of water, just enough to keep me from starving or dying of thirst. Sometimes they wouldn't give me any food at all for a whole day. They also often forbade me from using the bathroom, and sometimes the pain in my lower abdomen from holding it in was unbearable. Even when they did allow me to use the bathroom, because I had swollen lower legs, painful knees, and numb toes due to punishment standing and squatting for so long, I couldn't stand back up after squatting down every time I used the toilet. It would take me a long time to recover enough to struggle to my feet. At the time, it was almost the Chinese New Year, and the weather was very cold. I was cold, hungry, and exhausted every day. I already had a cold and a cough, and it just got worse. Coupled with severe sleep deprivation and being constantly intimidated, beaten, and brainwashed in turns by them, my whole body was in excruciating pain, and my head felt like it was splitting open. Every morning, if there were no incidents, all of us had to go to the yard for drills and practice standing at attention, at ease, marching in step, and so on. I was so weak I had no strength at all, and I could barely manage to make it through the training. Every time I moved, I would break out in a cold sweat, soaking even my padded shoes. The cell bosses also wouldn't let me shower. After a while, my whole body gave off a foul odor. And the cell bosses and other inmates said I smelled disgusting. Their words were incredibly humiliating. Around mid-January 2024, the two cell bosses, Qin and Nian Na, took me to the inmate shower area and repeatedly yelled at me, "Are you still going to believe in God? Are you going to sign the 3 statements or not?" I said, "I'll still believe, and I won't sign the 3 statements." Cell boss Wu Yun slapped me hard across the face. I was stunned, and my ears started ringing loudly. Then they grabbed my hair and started hitting me, continuing to press me. I still said, "I will never sign the 3 statements." Nian then kicked me to the ground and viciously ordered me to get up and squat. I had just struggled to my feet when she kicked me violently to the ground again. They just kept punching, kicking, and slapping me like that. They didn't stop until noon, when it was time for the inmates to have their meal. And they were even shameless enough to say that they were only using the stick after the carrot hadn't worked.
Military-style squats, punishments standing, and beatings. Being denied regular sleep and food. Sleeping only 3 or 4 hours a day. Being given only a small amount of food each day, and sometimes being given no food at all for an entire day. During those 20-plus days, Liju Ćing was repeatedly tortured by cell block bosses and bullies. The beatings left her with bruises and swelling all over her body. Her face was red and swollen too, and she was in excruciating pain. But she still refused to sign the 3 statements. However, this was only the first round of torture. The cell bosses and bullies soon started a second round of frenzied physical punishment. The abuse became even more severe.
2024年
On February 11th, 2024, the cell bosses started pressuring me to sign the 3 statements again. I still refused. So several of them dragged me to the inmate shower area again, where they all started beating me. One cell boss grabbed my hair tightly, forcing my face upward, while several others started fiercely hitting my face and head. The blows left me disoriented, and the pain was so intense I couldn't help but cry. Nia then kicked me hard in the lower back. The pain was so bad I could hardly breathe.
后来我一呼吸，
After that, every breath I took sent a sharp pain through my lower back, and I couldn't exert any strength for over 10 days. At that time, a cell boss leaned in close to my ear and said sinisterly, "Do you know why we're beating you here? There are no cameras here. No matter how we beat you, no one will ever know." The cell boss continued to press me. "Are you still going to believe or not? Are you going to sign the 3 statements?" I didn't say anything. She said, "Fine. If you don't sign the 3 statements, then we'll make you write things that curse your family and mail them to your home so that your whole family will hate you."
他们就不断地辱骂我的家人。
Then they started cursing my family relentlessly. I refused to write anything. So several cell bosses held me down and pinched my fingers hard, while one of them grabbed my hand and forced it to write things that cursed my family. It was during the Chinese New Year. But they were forcing my hand to write things that cursed my family and were going to mail it to my home. They used such wicked methods to force me into signing the 3 statements. They were utterly inhuman, worse than beasts. I hated them with a passion. I then confronted the cell bosses. "Why are you treating me like this?" One of them said, "We hate you. We're beating you because we have to complete the task the guards gave us. If you don't admit your guilt, we can't get our sentences reduced." Then, cell boss Ching flew into a rage and roared at me. "You dare to not sign the 3 statements? Let's see if you're afraid of death." As she spoke, she forced me to take off my shoes and squat on the floor. They used a ladle to scoop up water and pour it over my feet. The water was bone-chillingly cold. My pants were mostly soaked, and I was shivering from the cold. They tortured me for a bit over 2 hours. I already had a cold and was too weak to even walk, and now my coughing got much worse. During this time, the cell bosses kept threatening and intimidating me, saying
说要让其他监区
they would get the vicious cell bosses and inmates from the other cell blocks to come and torment me to the point of death, strip me naked and douse me with cold water, and make me stand naked in the cell block hallway. But I secretly made a resolution. No matter what happens, even if I have to give my life, I will not sign the 3 statements. In March 2024, the prison guards saw that I still wouldn't sign the 3 statements, so they emptied out cell 13 in the block to use as a temporary brainwashing classroom, and locked me in there with the other sisters who refused to abandon their faith. Then they continued intensifying their brainwashing efforts. The cell bosses forced us to sit on small stools, starting at 4 a.m. every day, and they constantly indoctrinated us with baseless rumors and fallacies, not stopping until 10 p.m.
他们每天不让我们洗
They
脸
also
刷牙
didn't let us wash our faces or brush our teeth. except for meals and using the bathroom. We had to sit on those small stools in the same position all day, listening to their fallacies. After a while, my whole body ached unbearably. Plus, the surface of the stools was uneven, and sitting on them rubbed my buttocks raw. They would keep scabbing over and the skin would peel off in layers. One time the pain was so bad, I couldn't lift my leg, and I couldn't walk at all.
Due to long-term, high-intensity brainwashing, abuse and physical punishment, coupled with sleep deprivation and reduced food rations, Liju Ćing became extremely weak, and she often felt dizzy with weak legs. Later, despite enduring over a month of violent brainwashing and inhuman abuse in Cell 13, Liju Ćing and the other Christians still held fast to their faith and refused to sign the 3 statements. Seeing that they remained unbowed, the guards sent them all back to their own cells. Their second round of brainwashing had also failed. But the prison guards were not about to give up so easily. Over a month later, the third round of forced brainwashing began.
The guards saw we still hadn't abandoned our faith or signed the 3 statements. So they locked us up in cell 13 again and began 4 long months of forced brainwashing and torture. This time, the cell block chief himself came to lead our brainwashing class. He indoctrinated us with atheist ideology, communist rumors, and all sorts of other fallacies. He even organized criticism sessions where God was openly blasphemed and forced us to listen. He also made up blasphemous rhymes and ordered us to memorize them. When we refused, the guards cursed at us, and I would talk back to them. When they made us write thought reports, I used them to expose their rumors and fallacies. Gradually, I realized I was no longer afraid of their intimidating power and dared to stand up and refute their devilish words. Seeing that we were still holding fast to our faith, the prison guards kept bringing in cell bosses from other blocks. Every 2 weeks, they would bring in a new group to forcibly brainwash us. Each time, they would bring in 3 cell bosses. One of these was a businesswoman, a senior financier, who was in prison for financial crimes. Every day she would talk to us about science and finance, about how to make money, and about the beautiful scenery around the world, trying to tempt us into abandoning our faith to pursue worldly trends. Another cell boss would play the family card, attacking our weaknesses, trying to use our families and affections to tempt us into abandoning our faith and betraying God. We heard almost every kind of baseless rumor, devilish word, heresy, and fallacy the CCP could come up with. But no matter what tactics or methods they used, we still resolutely refused to sign the 3 statements or betray God. Later, when summer came, the guards thought up new ways to torture us. They made us bake under the scorching sun. It was so hot we were on the verge of heat stroke, and it felt like our hair was about to start smoking. But the guards still ordered us to hold a military-style stance, a military-style squat, and practice arm swings, each for 45 minutes. For the arm swings, one arm had to be straight and swung back, while the other had to be bent at a 90-degree angle and held in front of the chest. Because one arm was always held up, my circulation was cut off, and my arms became swollen, numb, and unbearably sore. My feet, knees, and legs were also in agony from holding the military-style stance and squat for so long. The guards tortured us like this in an endless cycle, day after day, and would curse at us if our actions weren't perfect. Toward the end of this round of brainwashing, one of the guards started seeking me out more frequently, using both threats and inducements. She said, "If you don't admit your guilt, it'll be even worse for you when you're sent to the labor block. You'll not only have to work day and night and get beaten and cursed, but you won't even be allowed to eat." Hearing the guard's words, I thought to myself, from my arrest to my time in prison, this is all I've ever experienced. I experienced my way through so much torture by relying on God. What else did I have to be afraid of? On December 12th, 2024, we were transferred to cell block 6. In that cell block, they made clothes on an assembly line. I operated a flatbed machine, which is the most common type of industrial sewing machine. The prison guards demanded that I complete a quota of over 1,000 pieces a day. If I didn't finish, I would face various punishments and torture, like being deprived of sleep or food. To avoid further punishment, I had no choice but to work the machine as fast as I could. Every day, the pain in my feet and knees was unbearable. On December 1st, 2025, I was finally released at the end of my sentence and went home. Because I had been subjected to long-term physical punishment and sleep deprivation after my arrest, my heart now often flutters or pounds violently for a few beats. My lower back is also in constant pain from prolonged sitting, and sometimes it hurts just to bend over. Long-term torture, such as being forced to stand and squat as a punishment, along with the beatings and kickings, has also left lasting problems in my feet, knees, and lower legs. If I stand for even a little too long or exert myself slightly, the pain becomes unbearable. And from constantly working and operating the machine in prison, the tendons in my feet still hurt to this day. I'll probably have to live with these ailments for the rest of my life.
Liju Ćing, only 24 years old, was arrested for believing in God and harshly sentenced to 5 years in prison by the CCP for refusing to sign the 3 statements. In prison, she suffered all kinds of brutality and torment at the hands of the CCP police and cell bosses. This scarring experience will stay with Liju Ćing for the rest of her life. From the police station to the administrative detention facility, from the hotel to the detention centre, and finally to the prison. Each of these cages became a place of violence, where the CCP brainwashed Christians and tried to convert their thinking. The CCP even set up a special management cell block in the prison, using sentence reductions as bait to get cell bosses and bullies to harm Christians by any means necessary. The CCP stops at nothing to force Christians to sign the 3 statements and abandon their faith. Its brutal persecution of Christians is appalling and utterly wicked. Communist China is a devilish prison ruled by evil demons. That's all for today's program. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to the New Age and stay tuned to the facts of the CCP's tyrannical persecution of Christians. We'll see you in the next episode.